the present is the time that is associated with the events perceived directly and in the first time, not as a recollection or a speculation. It is a period of time between the past and the future, and can vary in meaning from being an instant to a day or longer. In radiocarbon dating, the present is defined as AD 1950. It is sometimes represented as a hyperplane in space-time, typically called now, although modern physics demonstrates that such a hyperplane cannot be defined uniquely for observers in relative motion. The present may also be viewed as a duration. Society and religion. Contemporary history describes the historical timeframe that is immediately relevant to the present time and is a certain perspective of modern history. General overview the present is contrasted with the past and the future. Modern physics has not yet been able to explain the perceived aspect of the present as eliminator of possibilities, that transfers future into past. Physical laws formally are valid at any point of time or even globally. There isn't a concept of a present time in this context. A complicating factor is that whilst a given observer would describe the present as a spatial structure with a zero-length time lapse, other observers would associate both time and space to this structure and therefore disagree on what constitutes the present. The direct experience of the present for each human is that it is what is here, now. Direct experience is of course subjective by definition, yet, in this case, this same direct experience is true for all humans. For all of us, here means, where I am, and now means, when I am. Thus, the common repeatable experience is that the present is inextricably linked to oneself. In the time aspect, the conventional concept of now is that it is some tiny point on a continuous timeline which separates past from future. It is not clear, however, that there is a universal timeline or whether, as relativity seems to indicate, the timeline is inextricably linked to the observer. Thus, is now for one observer the same time as now for another on a universal timeline, assuming a universal timeline exists. Adding to the confusion, in the physics view, there is no demonstrable reason why time should move in any one particular direction. The laws of physics simply are valid at any point in time. They describe events at 1645 yesterday and events at 2045 tomorrow. The idea that time moves isn't contained in these laws. Adding substance to the supposition that the timeline view of now may not hold the full picture, the qualities of now or the present in the human direct experience are very different from the qualities of past and future available through memory or anticipation. In the human direct experience, now has a certain aliveness, reality and immediacy not present in our concepts of past and future. Indeed, any experience is always happening now, even a reliving of some past event. Thus, there is a deep philosophical case for saying that the present moment is all there ever is, and that temporal perception is, and only can be, this very moment. When comparing time in places separated by great distances, the notion of present becomes more subjective. For example, we visually perceive stars to be where they were when the light now reaching our eyes was emitted, because even though light travels at approximately 300 million meters per second, it takes many years to reach us from distant sources. Thus, light travel time must be taken into account in such time comparisons. When used in the term before present, as used in expressing ages or dates determined by radiocarbon dating, present is defined as AD 1950. The present in yoga in Patanjali Yoga Sutras the first sutra defines yoga as now. By Chittavritti Nirada the present can be experienced. The moment a person thinks, he is recalling his past experience. He will never know the present. Being conscious or being aware is the only way to know the present. The present in Buddhism Buddhism and many of its associated paradigms emphasize the importance of living in the present moment, being fully aware of what is happening, and not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. This does not mean that they encourage hedonism, but merely that constant focus on one's current position in space and time will aid one in relieving suffering. They teach that those who live in the present moment are the happiest. A number of meditative techniques aim to help the practicer live in the present moment. Christianity and eternity Christianity views God as being outside of time and, from the divine perspective, past, present and future are actualized in the now of eternity. This trans-temporal conception of God has been proposed as a solution to the problem of divine foreknowledge since at least Boethius. Thomas Aquinas offers the metaphor of a watchman, representing God, standing on a height looking down on a valley to a road where past, present and future, represented by the individuals and their actions strung out along its length, are all visible simultaneously to God. Therefore, God's knowledge is not tied to any particular date. Philosophy and science equals philosophical problem equals, the present raises the difficult question, how is it that all sentient beings experience now at the same time? There is no logical reason why this should be the case and no easy answer to the question. For example, say somebody named John is experiencing a great deal of pain. John's friend Sarah takes pity on John because of John's situation. The problem is it logical for Sarah to feel bad for John at present, when there is no way to prove that both John and Sarah experience the same temporal existence? Special relativity is present. The original intent of the diagram on the right was to portray a three-dimensional object having access to the past, present, and future in the present moment. It follows from Albert Einstein's special theory of relativity that there is no such thing as absolute simultaneity. When care is taken to operationalize the present, it follows that the events that can be labeled as simultaneous with a given event, cannot be in direct cause-effect relationship. Such collections of events are perceived differently by different observers. Instead, when focusing on now as the events perceived directly, not as a recollection or a speculation, for a given observer now takes the form of the observer's past light cone. The light cone of a given event is objectively defined as the collection of events in causal relationship to that event, but each event has a different associated light cone. One has to conclude that in relativistic models of physics there is no place for the present as an absolute element of reality. Einstein phrased this as, people like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Today versus now, today signifies a day in a 24-hour interval to signify one's stance within the plane of time. This is contrary to now, because now has no definite measure for its own duration. On the graph of space-time, the present can appear to be infinitely small, or account for a large portion of a sequence. In British culture the word now would also indicate now in a minute. This is well known in popular culture around UK and US. See also, arrow of time, contemporary history, deixis, near real time, presentism. References, citations and notes. General information, Green, Brian. The Fabric of the Cosmos, Space, Time, and the Texture of Reality North. ISBN 0-375-41288-3, Stpath, Katrin. Gegenwartskoncept, Wang on Quarter LZBURG. ISBN 3-8260-3292-6. External links, The Experience and Perception of Time.